Going live. You're live. You're live, but your hair's a little bit messed up. Okay, I wasn't planning to do a third video today, but I know that one of them is kind of a niche video and one of them is a super niche video, so I'm not going to assume that all of my viewers are terribly interested in football, and if you're only interested in boots, then you're not interested in this anyway, and definitely not interested in books, apparently. Okay, I don't have a fancy schmancy presentation as usual. I don't have any visual aids as such in the show and tell usual. Although I will do the Easter egg of the other decorated item for the holidays. Yay! Another tin that I don't know what I'll ever put in it. Did I show the other one? I don't remember. I found my other box of decorations last night in the garage, though, so I'll be decorating the little sailor man next week, so you can tune in for that. Anyway, okay, so I was just watching, I know a day late, so maybe I would have rushed this video out yesterday or earlier. If I had bought, I wasn't even going to watch it because I was watching some other things, and I still didn't even finish watching two of those things, but close enough. So anyway, the title was how to find style or your style when you are fashion impaired. Not just regular impaired where you're just trying to figure out what outfit to wear, I guess. Haha. And then later in the video, he talks about how you must already have some inspiration. Well, obviously they don't. They're clueless. If they had any inspiration, they wouldn't be watching your channel, or hopefully this channel, where you'll get better advice slightly. Now, I am not, I don't do PowerPoint style videos and talk about so you get the point, right? No. He must know what he's talking about. He has a PowerPoint presentation. Well, no, he can still be giving some bad advice. Not bad, but misguided maybe. Now, I'm not automatically disagreeing with him or anyone really just to be a contrarian. I know there's people who do that in the comments, and that's how they get their jollies or whatever. And you try and give them a realistic response, and it's a brick wall. Whatever, fine. That's not the point of this. But I do, like I said, I do have to take issue with some of the points, and I've made videos about the cost per wear principle. I made like 4 of them in a row that not too many people watched, and I've made 2 or 3 videos already about why the capsule wardrobe doesn't actually work for men. So the basis of his entire thing wasn't necessarily a capsule wardrobe. We were going there not for the minimalism aesthetic on its own, but if you had just graduated college or whatever and you're starting a new job and you have to start from scratch, because as I've said in the previous videos, most of us don't exist in a vacuum. We're not starting entirely from scratch almost ever. But if we were, if we did have to start all at once, it's just less realistic to think that way. But okay, but again, it depends on the type of job. If you have a job where you need to wear suits, you're going to have to wear suits. There's no getting around it. So he's talking about you can get inexpensive suits, fine, yada yada yada. But in the capsule wardrobe, and we'll get into that momentarily. Some combinations and matches will make more sense than others. I'm trying to read my own writing here because I just jotted all this down in a hurry. And they will get worn more often than most, of the others by default, or some will get worn the most by default, rather. These pairings will naturally occur rather than the capsule thing. So we'll get into that in a minute. I'm just going to go kind of backwards. One of them was practice wearing your style. Yes. Yeah. Weather permitting, of course. If it's too hot or too cold, you're going to have problems with that, because in the first headline, he says function is less important than fit. I'm going to disagree with that right off the bat. No, function is more important in many situations than fit, and good tailors don't come cheap. So if you are on a budget, at least you're showing your intentionality wearing the thing, like I gave in the example in the previous video. See, if you had already watched the video, I wouldn't have to make this video. Of the kid who went on the job interview. And of course, I was dressed just even more casual than this, but the job I was applying for was a very warehousey kind of job, so I didn't think it mattered. And a kid showed up, well, kid, he must have been about 20, in what looked like definitely his dad's suit. It was 2 sizes too big, but he had a tie, he had a shirt. I'm positive he got the job. I'm positive I gave off the vibe that I might be the kind of worker who does the bare minimum, even though I've already graduated college and he hasn't, and I've had real jobs and he hasn't. I was pretty sure that guy's going to say, no, but he's a go-getter. He's young. He wants to learn. This guy's over 30 and, you know, wants to go watch hockey instead, you know. And quite frankly, I didn't really want the job that much, but it was close to home and it would have been fine. But I definitely wasn't going to suit all up on a warm day just to talk to some guy for 20 minutes who is probably less educated than I am and somehow going to be my superior. It's just an insult to everything. So yeah. But when I looked at him, I was like, oh God, wearing your dad's, like, maybe I agreed with Antonio at that time that he would have looked better in something that was his actual clothes, but what he actually had at home was probably not much except for a few pairs of jeans and a few t-shirts and a few pairs of sneakers, and chances are that was going to be good enough to wear on the job anyway. So he just wanted to dress to impress and get the job, and he probably did. So hooray. So again, function over fit. And in winter coming, yeah, if your army parka is a size too big, well, you'll be able to layer it over a sweater better rather than worrying about whether or not it looks stylish. But of course, if we are going back to style, that was the specific point of the video, not just how to be clothed and not freeze to death. I understand that. So that's why I'm saying I wasn't totally disagreeing with everything he had to say. That, you know, that was not the point of making this broadcast. And then one was boring to badass, and that was matching in your accessories. Most of the accessories, though, are going to be met. Again, you can skip most of the, if you're on a budget and you're just trying to impress, you can skip almost all the accessories. But if you do have accessories, just don't wear gaudy ones. Don't wear a bright, super orangey sports watch with your suit. Put it in your pocket if you need to know what time it is. Like I said, you know, practice these kind of things. You know, figure out that, hey, this watch doesn't look good with these trousers or whatever, even though it's the only watch I have. Fine. You know, you don't have to parade around in front of the mirror like some of the channels do. But to a degree, you should understand what looks good together, and that's one of the ways to achieve that. Yes. Like I said, yeah, he wouldn't be asking you for advice if he already had a starting point, right? It's kind of, I don't know, I always had starting points, so it's kind of hard for me, but I also have always known people who just don't care how they look. And so in the comments, one of the people had put, if someone has found their own style, then they're already, you know, on the path, and or something along the lines. And he said, oh, good point. And I was like, well, no, he actually was giving the opposite point of your point. Why are you agreeing with him? Just because the person has found their style doesn't mean that their truth doesn't make them not a total slob. They might actually be a total slob and missing the point just because their outfit looks right to them in whatever alternate universe or parameters they've set up. Like, I'm going to a basketball game. This looks fly. It's the same exact thing I'll wear on the date with this gal that I met who's a paralegal. Like, probably not, okay? A tank top and shorts, is that a style? Yes, if you're at the beach, that's perfectly acceptable. If you're not at the beach and you're going to a wedding, you probably don't want to wear that. So it's a little bit, you know, how we use the terms without getting into it, you know, the total argument about, why am I brain farting the word? You know what I'm talking about. Semantics. Like I said, without having a semantic argument, you know, let's define what actual style is. And let's say again, I've made this video before, we're starting that baseline at office casual and above, and then everything else. And so again, if we're trying to be stylish, anything below office casual will probably not qualify. Connecticut casual is Ohio business, right? Like the famous line from The Office that I have used 4 or 5 times already in these videos. Anyway, but his math, he comes up with a capsule, the rule of threes. Okay, and this is not the worst. Like I said, in high school, I kind of did this by default. You went to Mervyn's. I've said this in like 5 videos already. You know, we went to Mervyn's at the beginning of every school year, and we got 3 pairs of Levi's and a few T-shirts and a couple of button-down things and maybe a denim jacket or whatever. And literally in those days, I had 1 pair of sneakers or maybe 2 or 3. Throughout the school year, you'd kind of, you know, get a new pair or whatever. And so he says, you know, you have 3 shoes, 3 shirts, 3 pants, and then instead of only 3, there's 4, 3 jackets. So again, we're going more office casual, not casual jackets, although this doesn't, again, allow for a denim jacket or a leather jacket. This doesn't allow for, I'll show you on the chart here. I didn't write them all down, but it doesn't allow for sweaters. It doesn't allow for sneakers. You know, we've got 1 pair of maybe black, 1 pair of brown, and 1 pair of oxblood or gray, I think, in his thing. And we've got, say, a medium shade, a navy or black, and then a lighter shade. But I don't know if you're allowed to have a different color here, like tan or brown, or, you know, if you're going to do the brown family, then it would have to be brown and tan. And if you're going to do the blue family, it would have to be like blue, like lighter blue and gray, or gray, blue, and black. I'm not really sure exactly. But supposedly all these things are supposed to combine. And again, up here, I don't know. He doesn't really allow for patterns, but I decided you'd have maybe a patterned sport jacket and then maybe, again, blue, darker blue, and navy, white, light blue, and navy, or some other color. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. I just tried to copy what he was showing. And so, you know, white, blue, navy, gray, black, possible shirts, tan, blue, navy. You know, are you allowed a pair of khakis, or should this be a pair of chinos and these are more dressy pants? In which case you can't really wear chinos with the same navy sport jacket unless you're doing something super casual, in which case usually they wear the khaki pants with the blazer, but you're not wearing a blazer to the office most of the time. That would look weird. So I guess you're not allowed to have a blazer, just like you're not allowed to have a leather jacket. Again, if you're on a budget, you might want that leather jacket, but you better hold off, buddy. You haven't got your paycheck yet. Okay. And then in jackets, maybe you have blue, navy, gray, maybe brown and tan, maybe black. Again, he didn't seem to go that deep into the colors scheme, which I would assess about a little bit more. Unlike a woman who might overthink several things, that is one of the things I would want to think about, is how these colors are going to work together. But again, if you combine this with this, with this, with this, with this, overall, you supposedly end up with 81 combinations. Now, some of you might be better than, you know, at math than I am, so you will have worked this out. But like I said, this does not account for non-repeating days of work. So mathematically, this number is not really true. And mostly because you'll have to change your shirts more often, but also your pants and your jackets may or may not want to match better. Like I said, so by default, some of them will match better. And I think you could actually get away with only 2 pairs of shoes, maybe the brown and the black thing, or maybe leave out the black entirely and have 2 different styles of brown, one the Oxford, one the Derby. One will get used more than other if you do that, depending on your formality scale. But then if you save some money on a 3rd pair of shoes, you could buy more shirts, or maybe even a different pair of pants or another jacket. Again, you might need a casual jacket, not a work jacket. And ties, coming back to accessories that he kind of puts off to the side, which here is going to be more, you know, I mean, I should be wearing a tie to make this video right now, right? It's more integral to the overall outfit. You're going to need at least ties. You won't necessarily need pocket squares. You won't necessarily need a watch. You won't necessarily need a tie bar or a lapel pin or the boutonniere or a fancy belt or any of that kind of stuff. But you will need, again, probably a black and a brown belt or 2 brown belts. So where that fits in the 3s, it doesn't, but you have to factor it in if you're on a budget. So yeah, so neckties though, they're pretty forgiving. You know, you don't have to obsess about it. Again, like, don't overthink it, but know that you're going to need more than one tie to get through a week. And a good tie costs $40 at least, or maybe you can find some cheaper ones on eBay still, since a lot of those pandemic people were blowing out of theirs. But now that people are going back to work, you're probably finding less of them. Oh, he also says to go and get an overpriced hairdo, and obviously, if you're on a budget, don't do that. I have found, I mean, obviously, I'm growing my hair out a bit right now for no real reason at all. But paying for an overpriced hairdo almost never worked for me. It worked for me exactly once when I was in Washington, D.C. I paid this guy way more than I usually pay anybody else, but he actually cut my hair the way I wanted it to look. And I can't afford to fly to Washington, D.C. every time I need my hair cut. And that was over 20 years ago or something already. Anyway, so I don't know how much where I was. When I was in college, there was like 2 barbers in the town that were reasonable and 1 salon that was really expensive. And I had a friend who went to the expensive salon and came back with his hair looking worse than mine, I thought. But they all made my hair look like early 80s John Travolta hair. I absolutely hated it. I couldn't wait for it to grow out just so I could cut it short again by myself with scissors in the bathroom. Okay. So yeah, I've not really had any barbers touch my hair in almost a quarter of a century, and I've survived relatively fine. Okay, so I made a separate chart. I did not work out the algebra or trigonometry equation that would figure out the exact math, but you can read it. It's not backwards. Okay. Can only repeat pants and shoes for 2 days, right? You'll get 2 days out of the shoes. Again, you could have 1 pair of brown ones and maybe wear the same ones all week. And maybe nobody would really notice or care, but they will wear out faster, so you'll have to replace them sooner. Or get them resold first, blah, blah, blah. You can only repeat pants and shoes for maybe 2 days. Again, we used to do this with jeans in high school. You could get 2 or 3 days out of a pair of jeans, but jeans are not office casual. If you try to wear khakis or something else that many days, they're going to wrinkle all like crazy and look terrible. You're going to have to at least iron them to try and refresh them. Shirts, more delicate and show stains. I think I said that already. So the actual number of permutations is not 81. It does not equal 81. I don't know what the actual number will be, but again, if you're trying to mix and match the things, some of the things will just not look that good together, and some of the things will show more wear or stains. But if you also need a true suit or something that resembles a true suit, then you can only wear these pants with this jacket at least one of the days of the week, which maybe twice of the week. You'd have to double it up, maybe on Tuesday and then again on Friday or something, or Monday and Thursday, and try and mix it up however you can. Whereas if you want a more casual look, you can wear a little bit more mixy-matchy stuff depending on your job. So that's, you know, your more sporty look. It's a little more forgiving. More combinations are possible there. Whereas obviously the other style, everything is way more limited. And again, back to the Albert Einstein thing that Jeff Goldblum talks about in the Fly movie. Einstein just had 5 of the exact same suit, and everybody thought he wore the same suit every day, and he didn't care. So at the bottom here, we have maybe 4 shoes. Again, if you can afford more than 2, if you're saving the money somewhere else, maybe 2 brown, again, be your best option. Maybe leave out the black entirely. But if you can afford 4, then you could get an Oxford or a gray one, or maybe a burgundy one. Although why you'd want too many goofy colors, I don't know. But if you were getting 4 pairs and you left out the black, like two of these would be okay, and then gray, but then probably not burgundy. I don't know how much oxblood. If you're wearing, I don't know, does oxblood go better with blue or with brown? I don't know. I mean, it's a warm color and blue's a cool color, so one would assume it would go better with brown, but most people don't wear brown suits very often in the business world. They wear blue and gray more often. So oxblood goes better, I think, with gray than blue because gray is neutral, yada, yada, yada. Again, we're back to slightly overthinking. Again, practice in front of the mirror and see if it looks terrible, like that orange sport watch, or not. Okay. Like I said, this limits your compatibility, and so our definite number is not actually 81, which again is kind of a sticking point. Like I said, the overall advice is not the worst advice. You can make this work for a year if you had to. I'm just saying that don't have unrealistic expectations and don't try to jam a round peg into a square hole, right? And if you need style inspiration, I don't know. Yeah, like he said this, and so I agree with this. You know, yes, you can look at somebody like James Bond or whatever, but know that you can't necessarily afford what James Bond has. So yes. But again, that's going to bring us actually back to function versus fit, because if you're going to a thrift store to find that stuff, the fact that you find anything that looks, or eBay, the fact that you find anything that looks reasonably in that style parameter, even if it doesn't fit exactly perfect, you're still at least projecting that image, again, like the 20-year-old guy who wore daddy's suit to his first job interview, which I don't know. It's like I said, to me, it's kind of embarrassing, but when I was 20, I already had some stylish clothes, but mostly didn't want to wear most of them most of the time. Anyway, okay, so yeah, 20 minutes of rant, but not the most pointless ramble, I hope. And you know, I'm trying to be, you know, sort of passionate about these subjects still, even though I feel like I'm talking to the wind and not the real people, and the brick walls will drop nonsense in the comments. But if you do have any legitimate questions, of course, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'll try and clarify anything that was vaguely confusing about this pretty straightforward presentation, and try and get back to you in a timely and coherent manner, unlike some video people who just think they're too important to even read their comments. Although if you just write stuff that I know is you being contrarian for the point of being contrarian, I might ignore you. I might delete you. Sometimes I leave them on there just because, you know, I don't have that thin of a skin that I'm that worried about it.